is here.
God
is my provider.
God is here.
God is my healer.
God is just in everything that he does.
God is sovereign. God is my joy.
God is so faithful.
God is good.
God is constant. God is a finisher.
God is free. God is steadfast love. God is better.
God is hope.
First speaker that I want to introduce, man, I have done a lot of ministry with this young woman, and I know she loved that right there. But we've done youth ministry together for a long time, and now when we launched this campus, had the opportunity to invite her over. But she leads our hospitality team. She's a big part of our Awake team. Would you please give it up for our very own Debbie Jar?
Well, good morning, and thank you, Pastor Tommy. I get to go first, and there's probably a reason for that. When we got together last Monday night to go through our run-through, everybody who's speaking today, everybody had these great sources of inspiration for their word. I'm going to be straight up honest with you right now. My source of inspiration comes from Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. Season 5, Episode 23, that aired on May 3rd, 1997. We'll come back to that in a minute. So, my word is freedom. But I have a subtitle. God is freedom because he gives us fences. And I know that's kind of an opposite there, but bear with me on this. So, a common definition of freedom today is the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. On the other side of that, we have fences. And a common definition for fences, a barrier intended to prevent escape or intrusion or to mark a boundary. So I grew up on a family farm in southeast Iowa, probably very similar to some of you. We had 320 acres, little more, little less, different years. I had the freedom to play, run, explore, do whatever I wanted on 320 acres. But it wasn't enough for me. So through the years, we had different species of animals. We always had livestock of some kind on the farm. We started out in the early years, the dairy years. Talk about no freedom. So when you are a dairy farmer, you have to be there to milk the cows in the morning and to milk the cows at night, and you can't go any farther away from home than what you can get back for that next milking. No freedom at all, so it wasn't my favorite years in my life. Then we moved into the pig years. Pigs just live their best day every day. They just eat and grunt and eat and sleep. They're just having a great life. I kind of enjoyed the pig years because I learned really quick that if there was something on my plate I didn't want, if I could sneak it out to the barn, the pigs would take care of it for me. But then we went into the sheep years, and I apologize up front to anybody here who might be a sheep farmer, but those were evil, evil years. Sheep to me are the dumbest animal, and that's why God calls us his sheep. Sheep will go make a silly mistake. We go save them, bring them back to safety. They go make a silly mistake. We save them. We bring them back to safety, and on and on and on, just like us. That's for a whole nother series, though. But through it all, we always had cattle. And so we had to have a fence around the whole farm to keep the cattle in and to keep the neighbors' livestock out. The fence provided safety and a certain amount of protection to the cattle. They always knew they had food and water when they were inside the fence. And if they got sick or injured, it might take us a little while to find them, but we could always find them to give them aid. Outside of the fence, however, we couldn't always protect them. They might not be able to find food and water quickly. And if they did get hurt or sick, it might be days and days and days before we could find them. And they had their best life. They had, let's say, their best bovine life within those fences. When they stayed on their side of the fence, life was good. But there was always that one crazy cow. She thought her best life was on the other side of the fence. I shouldn't have looked at the picture. This is Scarlett, and she's not crazy, but she was being very interested outside of the fence that day. So that crazy cow is always trying to find that one small gap to squeeze through. Or maybe that one spot where the fence has fallen down and she can just walk right through. However she gets out, the best though is when she just out and out jumped over the fence. No fear at all, just jumped over, because she thought life was better on the other side of the fence. I know it'll be hard for some of you to believe, but the reality is that I was that crazy cow. So I had 320 acres to roam and do whatever I wanted, but I always wanted on the outside of the fence. I wanted way, way far on the outside of the fence, not just on the other side, but way away from the fence. I couldn't get far enough away from the farm. In my mind, that fence took away every freedom that I had. So in our country today, we pride ourselves in saying that we live in the land of the free, and we do. But I think, much like the younger me, we've confused the definition of freedom. I thought, in my younger years, I thought freedom was I could do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, wherever I wanted, and with whoever I wanted, and there'd be no consequences. But the reality is, that kind of freedom didn't bring me joy, it didn't bring me peace, and I definitely wasn't living my best life. So there was always a burden. What if somebody saw me? What if somebody told on me? What if I got caught? What would my punishment be? And that just really weighs on you over time. So this freedom that I thought I needed so much really brought me stress. The good news is, though, that God sent his son, Jesus Christ, to set us free, to give us his true freedom. So God provides us with his word to kind of give us a set of fences to live within. With his commands and his promises that we can find in the Bible, he gives us boundaries that we can live in and we can enjoy our life to the fullest and not live with that burden on us. So in Galatians 5:1, it says, "It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then, and do not let ourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery." That yoke of slavery, that burden that I lived under when I was trying to be outside of my fences, that's not God. He wants us to be free, and he doesn't want us to have that yoke of burden. When we're living in God's freedom, it's not a burden. It's a joy. He allows us to do, or because we're living in his freedom, it allows us to do what is right, and it allows us to do what we ought to do. It allows us to thrive. And I'm telling you, not just survive in the world, but to thrive and live our best life. So Galatians 5:3 continues on. "You, my brothers, were called to be free, but do not use," "You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge the sinful nature. Rather, serve one another humbly in love." And if you hear nothing else that I say today, please hear that word, serve one another. Because when we're living in the freedom of God, we want to serve each other. That brings us joy, and that gives us just we thrive when we're serving each other. The world's definition of freedom gives us the freedom to sin, but God's freedom gives us the freedom to serve. It allows us to do what's right and to glorify him by loving each other. So when I'm staying inside my fence, my thoughts, my attitudes, they become more and more like God's. My creativity, my dreams, my longings, they become aligned with God's. So returning back to the inspiration for my talk today, Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, Season 5, Episode 23. It's set in the 1870s in the western frontier out in Colorado. So at that time, it's open range, very few fences. Fences are starting to come into play, and they're not very well liked. So Sully, the good-looking lead male character in the show, he's having a conversation with his wife, Dr. Quinn. Their young son is starting to struggle with growing up and knowing where his fences are, and he's starting to break some rules, and they're trying to decide how to deal with that. So the conversation goes something like this. I suppose fences keep things straight between neighbors. They define things, kind of like rules. You run into them before you trample on someone else's territory. But what if no one ever takes the time to teach us how to build a fence? How do we know what the rules are? We don't have to worry about that because God gave us his rules in his holy book, the Bible. And through his son teaches us how to build our fences. We only know what is right and what is good when we know Jesus. When I live within God's fences, I have the freedom to do what is right. I have God's freedom to live my best life. So here we are on Labor Day weekend. We're starting into a new season, starting into fall. I'm going to challenge myself and you. Let's treat this as New Year's. Only we're not going to make New Year's resolutions. Let's make some new fence resolutions. Some things to help me keep my nose back inside my own fences and not trying to poke out. And what a great time here at the Bridge, because we have small groups starting. Small groups are a great opportunity for you to meet new people, to find other people, to help you define your fences, and to stay within them and love doing it. Also, I think we have Onboard coming up shortly. I just have to say, joining a dream team was the best decision I made once I started going to the Bridge. You find your people there. I love our church family. I love our dream team family. Life would not be full without them. So we're all here to help each other and find our freedom inside of God's fences so we can all live our best lives ever.